Imagine that everything you see around you is not a coincidence or a random chain of events, but an exact report of the signals your consciousness has been sending into the world for years. The space you live in, the people around you, your health, your money, even random encounters, all of it is reflection. It shows not your desires, but who you are inside, in your thoughts and feelings when no one is watching. Most people are afraid to look at life from this angle. It's much easier to say that's just how it happened, to blame circumstances, the government, parents, or fate. It's easier to live as if reality is a movie filmed by someone else. That's why many people close videos like this. The idea of personal responsibility hurts more at first than the idea of an unfair world. As long as it seems like something was simply done to you, you don't have to change anything. But if you feel inside that you're capable of more than what you see around you, you're here for a reason. If you're tired of repeating the same scenarios and have ever thought, it can't be that all of this is just a series of blows, then you're ready to hear about the laws of creating reality. Look at your typical day. You wake up, and the world immediately crashes in. Notifications, news, obligations. Your body already remembers the fatigue. Your mind automatically turns on old programs. And every thought doesn't just describe what's happening. It reinforces it. You react to the external world and trust those reactions more than your intentions. Years pass, and you still want freedom, but live like someone who doesn't have it. You dream of abundance, but inside you feel fear and lack again and again. You ask for love, but carry the belief that you can be abandoned. The laws of reality respond not to words, but to a stable inner signal. If the feeling "I don't have enough" lives inside you, that's exactly what returns. If your decisions are driven by fear and resentment, life brings situations where you confirm that role. You try to change the picture without changing the signal. You want a different movie while staying on the same frequency. Imagine a hall full of screens, each showing a version of your life. All versions exist, but only one is active, the one your thoughts and feelings are tuned to right now. As long as you believe life is simply doing something to you, you don't even look around. No one taught you this. You were taught to survive, not to create. But from this moment on, you can no longer say, "I didn't know." When I first heard the phrase, "you create your reality," it irritated me. My life back then was heavy: debts, anxiety, exhaustion, a body living in constant tension. My relationships repeated the same scenario. I wasn't chosen. I could beautifully explain why things turn out that way. Childhood, the country, circumstances. It all sounded logical, but inside I felt small in front of life. The turning point came on an ordinary day. A job rejection, a call about overdue payments, harsh words in an argument. That evening I sat in silence, feeling empty. Then I accidentally turned on a video by Joe Dispenza. His words annoyed and attracted me at the same time. Thoughts are a signal. Feelings are a magnet. The universe responds not to desires, but to who you are every day. When he described a person living in yesterday's state and wondering why tomorrow is the same, I saw myself. The phrase, "as long as you live in yesterday, the field cannot give you tomorrow," stopped me. I realized, if this is even half true, then I'm not just a victim. Every day, with my state, I sign a contract for the reality that destroys me. It was hard to accept, but that evening I asked a different question for the first time. What in me creates this kind of life? I was tired of living automatically and decided to learn the laws of reality, not for pretty ideas, but to stop being a spectator of my own life. When the emotions settled, silence came. The excuse, "that's just how it happened," dissolved. If I am the source, then everything around me is not a sentence, but the result of my signal. Thought is an electrical impulse. Feeling is a magnetic one. Their frequency is what returns. I saw my day. The morning starts with thoughts about debts, a signal of lack. The commute, irritation and fatigue. Work, resentment, envy, a sense of uselessness. I carried all this inside and wondered why the world kept showing me scenes where I didn't belong. For the first time, I truly saw the pattern, and it felt cold. My stable inner signal was far from freedom, abundance, and love. It was soaked in lack, fear, and constant expectation of a blow, and reality reflected it honestly. That's when I clearly formulated the principle. Reality is shaped not by what you want, but by who you remain day after day. You can write goals endlessly, keep journals, and create vision boards. But if inside you live as a person of lack, the field will tune to that frequency. You will unconsciously choose decisions, connections, and circumstances where lack appears again. It's like a radio receiver. Hundreds of frequencies exist, but only one plays, the one you're tuned to most of the time. Many people switch into the "I want something better" mode for a minute, then slip back to the frequency of "nothing will work out," and later wonder why the field doesn't respond. The field reacts not to desires, but to a stable signal. I realized that if I wanted different results, I had to stop fighting external events and start changing my inner state. Not asking why something happened, but looking at what state made it possible. This isn't about self-blame, it's about reclaiming your power. As long as reality seems random, you remain powerless. When you see it as a reflection of your inner states, an entry point appears. The world stopped being an external opponent and became a mirror. And there's no point in arguing with a mirror. You can only use it to see what's truly happening. It became clear to me that without understanding the laws, creating reality is just empty words. The laws of attention, state, mismatch, emptiness, and repetition. It's like trying to build a house without knowing the laws of gravity. The first law is simple and unforgiving. Where attention goes, energy flows, and reality grows. We underestimate attention. News feeds, conversations about crises, comparing ourselves to others seem insignificant, but these are exactly the things we water our lives with every day. I noticed that my day began with fear, continued with complaints, and ended with anxiety. And at the same time, I claimed I wanted a different life. But with my attention, I was building chaos and scarcity. So I stopped giving my attention away for free. I began treating it as the most valuable currency. I introduced a simple ritual. In the morning and evening, I asked myself what reality I was tuning into. In the morning, before touching my phone, I spent 10 to 15 minutes not on fear, but on the state I wanted to live the day in. And every time my attention drifted into chaos, I brought it back to what I wanted to cultivate. That's how I stopped being a person thrown around by every headline and became the architect of my attention. The second law is the law of state. Reality follows your inner weather. We're used to expecting the world to change first so that we can feel better. But if inside there is constant anxiety and resentment, the outer sunshine won't last long. I noticed how, even in the morning, I automatically stepped into the victim role and lived the entire day from that state. Dispenza says, "You are not a thermometer, you are a thermostat." You can set the baseline state you enter the day with. I began training this like a skill. Calmness, groundedness, self-respect. Sometimes it didn't work, sometimes I slipped. But the goal wasn't perfection. It was to stay in the chosen state at least one more time than yesterday. There's another law that breaks almost all intentions. The old you cannot enter a new reality. You can dream of a high income while remaining a person of scarcity. Ask for love while accepting crumbs. Visualize freedom while living without responsibility. This is the law of mismatch. A new reality doesn't accept the old version of you. Not out of cruelty, but because the frequencies don't match. I asked myself honestly, could I hold the life I was asking for as the person I currently was? The answer was no. Then it became clear, you don't wait for reality, you grow into it. I began training a new identity in small things. One step a day, done the way the person from that future life would do it. Saying no instead of yielding. Honesty instead of silence. Action instead of procrastination. And here the law of emptiness comes in. The new can enter only where there is space. We cling to old connections, habits, and activities out of fear of emptiness. But an overfilled closet cannot take in anything new. I began clearing space, things, contacts, habits that pull me down. Not out of cruelty, but out of respect for the future. Step by step, the old began to retreat. Not instantly, not beautifully, but irreversibly. Every small refusal triggered a surge of anxiety inside. Emptiness felt frightening and dangerous. But over time, I noticed something else. Where the dense shadow of the past used to lie, free space appeared. And it is exactly into that space that a new reality can enter. You cannot hold two lives at once, the one that pulls you back and the one you're moving toward. At some point, you must choose what you make room for. There's a law everyone seems to know about, yet almost no one truly respects. The law of repetition. The field responds not to a one-time effort, but to what you do again and again. We live in bursts, a motivational video, a couple of days of uplift, a meditation, a week of relief, an exercise from a book, a brief inspiration. Then we return to our old state and say, it doesn't work. In reality, it works, but not the thing you did twice. What works is what you've been practicing for years. If you spent 10 years reinforcing anxiety, resentment, and the expectation of a blow, it's strange to expect one practice to erase that imprint. I realized that my whole life I had respected only one law, the law of old habits. Every day I reinforced them with the same thoughts, reactions, and choices, and reality honestly reflected that script. So I made a decision. If I wanted a different life, I had to start respecting new laws with the same consistency I once gave to old patterns. I set a specific task, at least 30 days of living as a person who has accepted new principles. Not perfectly, but taking at least one step each day toward the new version of myself. Every morning, choosing a state instead of automatically picking up yesterday's heaviness. Every day, observing my attention and returning it to what I want to cultivate. Every day, one small action from the new identity, even when the old one whispered, not today. Every week, clearing space from connections, tasks, and things that didn't match the chosen life. The first weeks felt more like an internal battle than a miracle. Old thoughts rose in waves. The body pulled toward familiar reactions. But my standard changed. Not perfect, but don't give up and don't fall back completely. And at some point, the world began to respond, subtly at first. New people appeared, people with whom I could talk about growth, not just survival. Opportunities came that matched my state, not just any source of income. I remember one person whenever I doubt the power of repetition. His life was shattered by debt, illness, and the feeling that everything had passed him by. When he first heard about the laws of creating reality, he resisted and got angry. But then he chose not belief, but experiment. For at least a year, he started with attention, stopped feeding his mind catastrophes and hopelessness. Then he chose the state he entered the day with, not euphoria, but calm focus and self-respect. Then he admitted that the old version of himself couldn't hold the life he wanted, and began expressing the new self in small actions. Then he cleared space, let go of things, people, and activities that pulled him down. It was painful, but it was in the emptiness that the first new opportunities appeared. He didn't do this for a week or a month, but systematically, day after day. Within a few months, his outer world changed. Chronic symptoms faded, stable income appeared, and people entered his life who saw him as a partner, not a problem. After a year, he was a different person, not by someone else's standards of success, but by the feeling of inner wholeness. He no longer said, "The world did this to me." He said, "I understand what I radiate, and I see how the field responds." That's how the law of repetition works. It doesn't reward bursts of effort, but it rewrites destiny when you choose a new frequency day after day. Right now, you're already creating your reality. Even if yesterday you said everything just happened. Look honestly, which law have you violated most often? The law of attention, state, mismatch, emptiness, or repetition? You already know where the strongest resonance is. That's your entry point. You don't need to change everything at once. Choose one law and one action that will confirm your choice today. Turn off a source of chaos. Choose your state in the morning. Express one trait of your new self. Let go of something that belongs to your past life. Or give yourself a contract for 30 days of honest practice. 30 days of small, honest steps. Fear won't disappear, and it shouldn't. It will tell you that you're going nowhere, that it's too hard, too late, not for you. But now you know, fear is not a sentence. It's a marker of the boundary between the old and the new you. Imagine two timelines. On one, you continue as you always have. You wake up with the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, do the same things, complain about the same problems. Over the years, you become a more tired and disappointed version of yourself who still says, "I wanted something else, but it didn't work out." On the other timeline, you do what most people never dare to do. You take responsibility for your state, your attention, your identity, and your small but daily steps. The world doesn't become perfect, but you stop feeling like a stranger in your own life. Which line do you choose now? Not someday, but in this moment. I ask you to anchor this decision not for me, but for yourself. Subscribe to the channel if you want a voice nearby that reminds you. You are not a victim, you are a creator. Leave a like if you feel an inner shift, and write in the comments one simple thing. Which law you are taking into practice, and what one action you will take today to confirm it. Let this line be not just text on the internet. Let it be your inner vow. The world always responds to the signals you send. From this moment on, you can continue radiating randomness, or you can choose awareness. You already know enough to stop living on autopilot. The only question is, whom will you authorize to create your reality tomorrow morning? The old you, who explains everything but changes nothing, or the new you, who quietly gets up and takes a step?